across the road.
Are we following you?
Yes. I mean, should we all take turns? So we should just say that it's a pilot project and it's very much a collaboration. So it's basically walking around the city of London and the streets of London and in a way finding out pieces of history. And I prepared a quote from Jane Jacobs from The Death and Life of Great American Cities. Cities have the capability of providing something for everybody only because and only when they are created by everybody.
Last year, a school of primary school kids have moved onto the square, and it's a French school. It's over there, and it's kind of an alternative French-speaking school, and they all wear these little red hats all the time. And because my office looks onto the square, suddenly, after having worked here for 12 years, never seeing little kids running everywhere, every day that's being used by little kids, and buses come with kids, and I just think it's a nice addition to a square which has been for, so long, decades and decades, the AA and other schools of sort of for higher education to have kids again. Who does?
The Inland Revenue.
Do they also?
Yeah.
And what were you saying?
Rainer Banham in his film Rainer Banham Loves Lily. There's that clip of him cycling around here, and he talks about Bloomsbury as being the border you were just talking about on Marylebone Road. You're saying was basically the maximum distance you could walk. So it's kind of defined by not having cars at that point. So then motor traffic transforming the boundaries of London.
Basically, this is our itinerary. I don't think we'll manage to do it because some people need to get back for two, but basically we left from Bedford Square, and the purpose is to go through Mallet Street a bit towards Birkbeck University, where they improve the public realm, and then go a bit inside the Institute of Making and Petrie, and then Tavistock Square, see a bit the squares and the connection with Bloomsbury's group, Virginia Woolf, and then Russell Square, and the aim is to end at Brunswick Centre. The installation recalls a particular episode in London's social and spatial history, the removal of railings from London's private squares as part of the 1940s war effort. This was believed that it would help for the munition to be created. Also, what it created spatially is this boundaryless gardens and squares in London. Why I picked up this building is because of the small insertions that you see of the railings on the first floor, which are basically depicting the different diseases that they were studying in the early 20th century. So there are fleas, there are cobras, snakes, mosquitoes, bed bugs, everything that in a way people that were traveling from far away.
I did a brief study trying to get into as many buildings as I could from the window of our studio and draw what I could see. It's weird because I couldn't even get into the Bartlett engineering department.
One place I was wondering if you was going to stop at, which I think is over there somewhere, which I've never been inside, I've only ever seen the plaque, which is the Institute of Measurement and Control. What did
Our fifth stop is the Senate House, which was designed by Charles Holden between 1932 and 1937. And it's one of the tallest buildings in Bloomsbury. It has 19 floors. George Orwell's wife used to work part of the Ministry of Information, the censorship department, which influenced George Orwell's Ministry of Truth. So a lot of the spatial descriptions that he gives in his book are actually based on the spatial delimitations of the Senate House. Hello?
Are you looking for the Petrie Museum?
Yes.
Oh yeah, if you push the door it should be open.
Okay, perfect.
So our collection is comprised of over 80,000 objects. About 10% of that is on display. Most of the collection was amassed by Petrie, the remainder by colleagues and students. You'll see some pictures of some of his key workers. There's 3 sections. In the pottery gallery, lots of objects. Dates above the cases, and highlights include the oldest tunic to date, which is over 5,000 years old, a stunning bead neck dress, which is quite flapperesque, which is just under 5,000 years old. And you're welcome to draw, just be mindful of visitors, so any bags or coats, please don't leave it.
Is he the father of surveillance?
Kind of, yeah. Well, he designed the panopticon.
Yeah.
So his punishment for designing the panopticon was to spend all eternity now being scared. That's true.
But it was this idea of that if you were always seen, you would use self-censor or something.
Yeah, you behave better.
Yeah, so I mean, the building has the tower with the kind of viewing
like
slot,
Pentonville Prison as well, yeah.
but you don't actually need anyone in the tower because you can't tell if anyone's in the tower or not, so you feel like you're being watched whether you are or not, so you're internalising it. So Foucault took that on as a model of our society and surveillance society in general.
Do you know why prisons aren't like that now?
Well, they have bars with cameras and so on.
Yeah, I guess that's why.
So I guess one of our last stops is Gordon Square. Bloomsbury is quite famous for being an area full of squares and delimited basically after the Dukes of Bedford and the Russell family plotted their courts and mansions and manors and buries. All these private courtyards emerged later on as public squares. And why pick this square specifically? Because it was on our way back, but also because Virginia Woolf and the Bloomsbury Group was quite a prominent figure in the area. So where you see
So it's basically founded by Abby Warburg, who was his father was, if I remember rightly, a banker or industrialist. He actually inherited the family company, but didn't want it, and basically passed it on to his younger brother on the condition that he'd buy him any books that he wanted, which is then basically ends up being this collection here. But what's really interesting about this is that it's organised on a completely different system to most libraries. So it's done on his modes of association between books rather than the usual Dewey classification system. So I remember I was in there once looking for something on classical architecture. It turned out to be, for some reason, I can't remember what it was I was chasing up at the time. And they had the only book of it in London, so I went in there. And the whole point of the library is that you're meant to find kind of strange connections between just looking at what's kind of next to it. The book that happened to be next to the one that I was looking at was on dwarf tossing in ancient Greece, which I wasn't able to fold into the essay, but I hoped I could have. Yeah.
shared. So yeah, this is baked thinking about Bloomsbury. So it's a baked cheesecake. It has dairy, eggs, and flour, so not really suitable for vegans. Or yeah. We should have like for all the areas around a cake. Yeah. This is the Bloomsbury cheesecake.
Got the recipe.
Last night I was